How you doing? It's the Butcher here, and today I'm making a video on Path of Exile. If you've seen any of my streams lately, I've been playing a ton of this game for the last several weeks now. I have about 60 hours in the game, so I want to make a pretty as concise as I can make it. I know I'm ramble on a lot, but as concise as I can make it, kind of beginner's guide to the video from a true beginner, someone that came in with basically zero knowledge. There's now about 60 hours worth of playtime. I have had some help in my chat, and I appreciate all you guys that have done that. But I want to just kind of go over what I've learned for anyone that's looking to jump in the game. And I do want to mention kind of, first and foremost, the Diablo content's not going anywhere. Right now it's a little bit of a dry season. Once Season 3 comes around, leading up to that, the Diablo content will still be there in full force. And I know people kind of really have to like one game or the other. I think they're both good games. Diablo's struggling a bit now, and it's kind of tough to compare them both because it's a game that's been out for 10 years. I've kind of made reference to it in the past, some of the things they've done that I would like to see implemented in Diablo. But Diablo also does, have its advantages too. The graphics are better. I do think the combat's better. Kind of the core combat, I should say. Things like that. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of, mention that up front, that Diablo content's not going anywhere, but I did want to make this video because I've really been enjoying this game. I think people that are looking for another game, it's okay to play more than one game, believe it or not. Some people don't think so, but for people that are looking for another game in the ARPG genre, Path of Exile is a ton of fun, but there is a very high kind of barrier to entry in terms of knowledge. So that's what I'm going to try to help you out in this video. So let's kind of jump right into it. So first things first here, when you create a character, so if I jump out here, you can see I only have one character. He's currently level 90, or she, I guess, is currently level 90. You get 5 classes to choose from. You can choose hardcore, softcore, and then you can choose to play in the current league, which is their 4 seasons. This one's called the Affliction League. I'm not going to get into the mechanics really for that. If you are interested in certain things, I'm going to mention certain things where you can go watch, other videos to really go in depth on that. But anyway, the first thing you have to do is obviously make a character. So what I would suggest doing as a newcomer is go to a website. I'm going to suggest Maxwell here, but you can look at videos and whatnot. But go to a website or find a video that has a build. And the reason why Maxwell is great, you'll see in a second, is like if you come here, if you go to Maxwell, you click on build guides, you're going to want something that's a league starter. So that means it's going to be relatively cheap, and we'll get into the currency and kind of how that works. Relatively cheap, and you can kind of make it from the beginning. You won't have to build up currency or have certain items and stuff to get it online. So this is actually right here, the one I'm doing, is the Toxic Rain Ballista Pathfinder League Starter, and I like it quite a bit. I watched a video of kind of some of the best League starters. I picked one that was appealing to me. I would recommend you kind of do the same. Find a video or something, or just you can even click on them. They have a little overview. It could tell you difficulty, budget. We'll get into mapping and bossing, their defenses, strengths, weaknesses, things like that. So yeah, I would suggest first things first. Finding a build guide you like and following that. I'll have everything through the leveling as we get into the skill tree, where to allocate your points and whatnot. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to mention, is actually getting yourself in the game, getting a build started. And then, let me go back to my hideout quick since I'm going to exit there. And then once you have that going, probably the first thing you're going to notice is this massive skill tree, which is very intimidating to a lot of people. But here's the way I would look at it. So you can obviously see where my points are allocated here. They're all pretty much in this bottom right kind of quadrant, and we'll get to these later too. But the way this is kind of works is, and I have some kind of up here, it's kind of broken up. So it's essentially like having all classes skill trees and all type of builds in one. So I'm using a bow. As you can see, I'll have a lot of bow stuff here. Damage with bows, things like that. That's kind of defensive stuff, but you can see I'm using totems, so totem damage, things like that. But for example, I'm not even sure what's even over on this side, but let's just take a quick look. If you're using a minions build, you would probably come over this way. If you were using, let's see what we got here. Okay, it's not a good example because I can't figure out what it is, but you can kind of see if you look through it how it's kind of spread out. So this is like dual wielding. If you're doing a dual wielding setup, I think like over here is I believe it was like claws or something like that. Yeah, so if you're using a claw, which is a type of weapon, you come over here. If you're using daggers, you would come, this way. Let's see what's over here. Some of these are obviously, defensive, kind of apply to everything too, but there's those notes spread out pretty much between anything, all over basically, but you can see over here. So if you have a staff-based build, you would probably come over this way, things like that. So it's actually, again, maces, it's actually not as confusing. It still is confusing, don't get me wrong, but it's not as confusing as you would initially think. Because once you get your build set up and you see where you're going, you're going to see all the nodes that are going to be kind of allocated towards your build that you could potentially grab, along with grabbing kind of core ones that help your build. Like I said, for me, it's a lot of things with bows, things with chaos damage over time, because that's the build I'm playing. But that is the skill tree. So like I said, that's probably the first thing you'll notice when you get into the game. And that's where that guide's going to come into effect. But the second thing you're going to do is you're going to have to play through the campaign. And there's no skipping the campaign. Even if you create new characters, every single time you're going to have to play the campaign. So the campaign, so it depends how you want to do it. I kind of took my time a little bit, but if you want to just blast to the end game, you just go through as quickly as possible. There is actually, I think, some fun boss fights in there and some fun sections. Story, I didn't really get too into. I didn't really attempt to get into it, though, so no real complaints there. But several things I wanted to note while doing the campaign. So, if we go over here, we go to Act 1. These are actually going to be, I've actually completed these, but basically these will go over to this section over here. And what will happen is when you click on them, like let's say I were to click on this one, and this quest this will be kind of your home base, and each new area, most of the new areas you'll be able to get a waypoint you can fast travel to. But let's say it's this quest right here, and it's over here. It actually show a gold path that leads up to there, so you'll know which way you're going for which quest you have to do. And each act will have, it depends, probably somewhere around 5 different kind of quest lines you have to do, 4 or 5, and they might have different parts or whatnot. It depends, but you'll have to progress through those in order to get to the next act, and those are the main missions, and you'll be able to fly through those to get to the next act. Along though with the main missions, there are also side quests as well too, and these are actually very important. You're going to want to do all of the side quests because a lot of them will grant you another passive skill point, and at the end of the campaign it'll actually show you. You can go back and look and see what side quests you missed. I'm sorry, I have like everything prepared but this, but there's actually a way to see it. Sorry, there is actually a way to see it after you beat the campaign. So it's okay. So in order to see that, I guess you could probably do this during the pain too, but you're going to want to go like this, passives, and it'll tell you what you have it from. Why do I have 0 from this? That's actually not good, but you'll be able to come over here and you'll be able to see, and if you have a 0, it's not good. But you want to have, so I'm actually missing one myself. I believe this should be a 1. But I believe there's 24 total passive skill points you'll want to have. And one that you really want to take note of, because I made this mistake, is in Act 2. There is a quest where you're ordered to kind of kill bandits and then you barter with them. I'm sorry if I'm giving up some spoilers, but it's very important. You'll know it when you get there. And for pretty much all builds, and you can actually see this, I believe, in the max roll guide. Well, it should have it there, but if I pull this over, So it'll literally say it down here in a lot of the other guides. Let me just pull up another one. Quick. Just anyone here. Sorry. Where's the league starter ones? It should say. Sorry. It's not cooperating with me. Down here, finally. It should tell you what to do for your build. Most builds, though, pretty much all of them, I actually haven't seen one without it, but I'm sure there is exceptions, probably for more complicated builds, will want you to kill all the bandits in this quest. And again, this is very important when you get there. I did not do that, and it's pretty expensive to go back and actually fix that, because that'll give you 2 passive skill points. And for pretty much all builds, you're going to want those 2 passive points. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind as you're going through is when you die, you lose XP in this game. So this is not just a campaign, but it is something to keep in mind during the campaign. But also once you get later on, as you can see, I'm actually very close to level 91. And as you go up in levels, you'll actually lose more XP when you die. But it is important both during the campaign and afterwards to note that you do lose XP when you die. Even in softcore, hardcore, obviously your character's, kaput. But you should keep that in note because it will slow down your leveling process. And then once you get to higher levels, you're going to want to do content that you're not going to want to die in, especially right now when I'm very close. And then you're kind of want to push content maybe when you've just hit a new level or something like that. And then last thing here is going to be, it's actually this right here, is going to be your labs or your labyrinths. So what this will do is it'll allow you to choose an Ascendancy. So this right here is actually from the season mechanic. And this, again, isn't something I'm going to get into that much. There's 3 you can pick from, though. That's something, if you wanted to play and get into the season, you can follow the build guide and see which one you want to pick. And then you can find videos on exactly how to do it. You're going to have to find these certain people in this dark Viridian Wildwood, which will appear every time you come into a new area. But I still fully don't understand the mechanic, so I don't want to get too much into that. I've kind of just been doing what people tell me and following guides and things like that. But this one over here, this is what's called your Ascendancy. And you get these points. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. You get 8 points. That's what I thought. By doing what are called these labyrinths up here, which is basically you walk up to this little plaque after you've completed these in certain areas of the campaign. And they're basically like little mazes is what they are. And these will tell you where to complete them. And then the last one, you're just going to need a certain thing that ends up dropping in the maps later on to be able to do it. But what this allows you to do is kind of specialize in a certain area. For me, I'm using the, I believe it's called Pathfinder, if I'm not mistaken. And this does things like increases my chaos damage, which is good. It helps with my flask, and flasks are a pretty brief part of this build. But depending on what build you want, it'll tell you, and then again, your guide will tell you what Ascendancy that you will go into. So, what you have to do, like I said, is you have to actually find these so you can look at them going through the campaign, and then we can actually do is, after you've gone through this portion up to level 3, you can go back to whatever area it is and actually find the labyrinth and complete it. Like I said, it's a little maze. This is, again, something you can look up if you're having trouble with it. But it's a little maze you basically have to go through, and then you go through this kind of big one over here, and you fight a boss at the end and allow you to allocate points to that Ascendancy. So that's basically all I have for the campaign. There is one more thing I guess I want to mention. So after you beat the campaign, and I'll get into these, you do want to check your resistances again, because you will actually get a penalty now, so you'll have to cap your resistances higher. After you beat the campaign. I believe it's like minus 50 or even 60. So definitely check that out. And again, I'll get into this stuff later. Okay, so next thing I was going to get into is actually going to be the stash. So a couple things to note here. First thing is it's not exactly, it's kind of related to the stash, but it's not exactly in the stash. It's actually a loot filter. So what a loot filter is is basically as you go through the game and as you're killing monsters, this game's going to drop an absolute ton of loot. Most of it you won't want. So what you're going to want is, I suggest this website here. This is what I use. You're going to want to add a loot filter. So you can see what I have is, the website is Filter Blade, and what I have is a semi-strict one on. It's never sync, softcore, semi-strict, normal. This is the one I would recommend for someone coming in new. And basically what it does is it will filter the loot that's on the ground, so only stuff that makes it through the filter will pop up. So basically stuff that you're more inclined to want to grab. And the way you actually add this loot filter is you go to options and you go to if it's game, yes it is, and you go under here and you add your loot filter, and that's after downloading it from like I said, a Filter Blade. And you can look up something like that if it's a little confusing. I'm sorry, I actually don't know how to delete this and then come back to it. But you could look up a guide pretty easy on that, but you will want to add a loot filter probably about halfway through the campaign would probably be best. If not, definitely at the end of the campaign once you start getting into more of the end of game stuff. You're going to need it because your screen will be absolutely littered in loot to the point where you won't be able to see. So that is the loot filter, but then your actual loot. So the stash here. So this is a free game, but if you really want to play, like play, not just like a little casual fun on the side, if you want to get into the season, try to push some of the harder content, you're going to actually need some of these kind of more premium stash tabs that do actually cost money. So what you start out with is these four you see here, and they're just regular stash tabs. You can do things like choose if you want to auto for this one. If I have a gem here and I click on it, click Control-click to send it to my stash, it'll automatically go into stash tab 1, even if I'm hovering over stash tab 2, things like that. But you're going to start out with these four, and it's not a lot of space. You can make do probably for the campaign, but once you start getting into endgame content, it's just not enough space, especially with things like currency and maps. So what you have to do is you actually, if you really, like I said, want to like really get into this game, then you can, like I say, probably wait till after the campaign for this and see how much you like it. You're gonna have to buy some of these tabs. The ones I would recommend, and they do run pretty often stash tab sales. That's actually when I just picked up mine during the sale, so you could save yourself some money. I recommend, most importantly, is the currency one. If I can find it, I'll just do it from here. The currency one is most important. Second most important is probably the maps, but cards and essence are also very important too. These will take up a lot of room in your inventory, and you'll get these added on, and you can make it so the currency goes straight in. So for example, let's take these right here. It's a form of currency. Let's say even though I'm over here, you can see this is where I have my flask. If I click to add this to my stash, it goes immediately to my currency. It makes things a million times easier, saves a ton of time, and becomes basically essential to play the games at kind of higher levels. And the second thing I have here too is something we'll get into, is I have these premium tabs, and this allows me to sell my items that I don't want. So you can see I have stuff listed here for different prices, and I think I bought, it was a pack of 6 of these, I believe it was, during the sale. But this is also essential if you do want to be able to trade your items. And while you don't have to trade your own items, I would say is pretty essential, at least it helped me a lot. Instead of having to find all your items, they actually have a great website called PoE Trade, or Path of Exile Trade, whatever. It's actually directly from the Path of Exile website. I'm going to pull it up here. That allows you to search for and buy items. And again, you don't need the stash tabs to actually buy. You just need it to sell. Sorry for that flash. I just want to make sure I have my notes up on the side here. But basically, this website will allow you to find anything. So let's say you need a bow, and you need it to have 6 sockets and 6 links, and you need 2 of those to be red, 2 to be green, 2 to be blue, and you need the, let's say, damage with bows. You need damage with bows on your bow, like increased damage with bow, I should say. You can put all that in and you can search, and no results found for some reason. Oh, because I put it, sorry, because I put this, I put it in links instead of sockets, but let's say you need 2 of each sockets and you need 6 links, and it's still not coming up. Okay. Again, I'm new, so I'm not the best at this. So you can see it'll pull up all the bows listed here. You can see their price and see exactly what modifiers they have on them. And what you can do is you can just, you hit direct whisper, it'll send this person a message in game, and usually what they'll do is, you know, sometimes people respond right away, sometimes not, but basically they'll invite you to a party and you'll visit their hideout, and then they'll give you the bow, you'll give them however much currency it is, you make the trade. It's very simple and effective, and it allows you to, you know, not have to specifically find or craft, which is pretty difficult, all your items. So this is a great tool, and I would highly recommend using this. And I actually don't know what I messed up before. I guess maybe that can't drop on bows, the affix I put in there, but you can get real specific with things. Look for unique items, anything like that. So that is the trading. And like I said, I would really recommend that to be able to get your builds going and to get things you need, like it will say in your build guide and things like that. As you come across currency, the 2 main currencies are going to be Chaos Orbs and Divine Orbs. The way I think of these are Chaos Orbs are like cents, Divine Orbs are like dollars. Divine Orbs are much more valuable. I think the current exchange rate is about 220 of these Chaos Orbs for 1 Divine Orb. But these are the 2 most common currencies you're going to use to buy items on the site, so definitely look out for those. And there's a ton of different currencies, and they all do a lot of different things. You know, that could be a whole video in and of itself. But those are the 2 to keep your eye on if you want to trade. Okay. So that is how you can trade, and that is how you can get a lot of the gear you need for your character and kind of get geared up and ready to go. So once you beat in the campaign and everything, what do you do next? So there's kind of what I would consider, at least in my experience, kind of 5 endgame activities. So there's mapping, which is probably the most popular and what I'm going to be talking about the most, because that's mainly what I've done. That's probably what I suggest newer players to do. There's Sanctum, which is basically this activity. It'll actually be right here. You go to this Sanctum over here, and you have to have basically a key for it, and you go in, and you can only take a certain amount of hits, and you have to progress through rooms. You either have to kill all the enemies or just find the exit door, things like that. And that's pretty fun. I haven't done it too much yet. There is Heist, which is actually a whole different area. It's almost like a whole different game, but it's these contracts right here, and you'll start a contract, and you'll go in and you'll be able to basically go through a little kind of mini dungeon, and you'll be able to open certain chests and looking for a big chest with a valuable item in there, and then you'll try to escape with it. So it's pretty cool. I've done a little bit of that. You can get some pretty good rewards and currency from it. There is Delve, which is over here in the mine encampment. And again, these are things I would, if you're interested in, once you start playing, after you check them out, you'll kind of end up checking them out as you go through. It'll be like a little side quest. But this is basically, it's not even like a mini dungeon. You'll follow this little cart in a mine, and it'll lead to monsters, and you'll basically get to choose, if you're leading it to gear, or if you're leading it to weapons, or if you're leading it to gems and things like that. And again, that could be pretty cool. Can be difficult and complicated for new players. So again, I would stay away from that a little bit. And the final thing I would say is bosses. So there's multiple variations of bosses. There's regular and uber variations of bosses. These will most likely require invitations to do them, which you can either buy or you can get by usually doing maps. And that finally brings us to mapping. So this is the most common kind of endgame activity. It's how you make a lot of your currency and everything like that. And this is actually my map tab here. As you can see, the tiers of maps range from 1 to 16. And basically what a map is is it's basically a campaign level, and on it you're going to have an objective, usually to kill the map boss in there, and they might be in their own arena or they might just be somewhere in the map, and you're gonna run through it, kill everything in there, and then you're gonna end up killing the boss and you can beat the map. And it sounds simple, but there's a lot more to it than that. Within the map, you'll also have mini objectives, which are what a lot of these people are. So there is things like Blight, there's things like Abysses, there's things like I'm trying to think, the Beasts. There's all these different kind of in-game things within. There's Ultimatums is another one within the maps that you're able to do for kind of bonus gear and loot and currency and all these different things. And as you do them, you'll get what I mean. But basically what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing maps, and you're going to end up getting points to allocate to, what is called your Atlas skill tree. Now this again looks confusing, but basically what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to see what type of those in-game events you like best. Basically, my favorite is personally Abyss. And you're basically going to want to spec into that, and it'll give you kind of bonuses. It'll have them spawn more. You can even do things like blocking some of the ones you don't like if you want to. But as you do maps, you'll be able to spec into this and kind of customize your own mapping experience, which is really cool. So how do you kind of get these points? How do you kind of progress through the mapping system? So, like I said, there's 16 tiers. Tiers 1 through 4, you can do them at just base rarity, and you'll get a if you look at here, you get the Atlas map completion, and you'll also get the bonus objective. So that provides you 2 points. And then as you go on, once you get to level 5, the map is going to have to be rare, and there's different currency items to make it rare. For example, to make it rare, it's actually from a normal item, it's this Orb of Alchemy. You'll have to make it rare in order to get the bonus. And then once you get to tier 10, it's going to have to be rare and corrupted, which is going to require one of these Veil Orbs, again, in order to get the bonus. So just make sure as you're going through maps, if you're wondering why you're not getting the bonus objective, why you're not getting the max amount of skill points, or Atlas points, I should say, that's probably why. So that's a note. And then what these will have is, where is one that's not just base for now, just so I can use it as an example. Where's one? So let's identify this. So these maps that are rare and corrupted, so anything even magic, which is blue or above. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. 5 through 10 needs to be magic. I don't think I mentioned that. But this is a rare one, so you can see the amount of item quantity is increased by 52%. The rarities increased by 31%. The monster pack size is increased by 20%. But then what you're really going to want to look at is the ones below. So players are cursed with vulnerability, which I'm not exactly sure honestly what vulnerability is, but it's bad. Monster skills chain 2 additional times. Arian is inhibited by Solaris Fanatics. Buffs on players expire 70% faster. So honestly, those ones, some of them I'm not even sure what they do, but there's some ones you really want to look out for. For example, I rely on mana regeneration. So anything, a lot of times it says you can't leech or you can't regenerate life, mana, or energy shield. That's a no-go for me. A big one you want to look out for pretty much for anything, I believe it's actually on this one right here, is a negative to maximum resistances. And then on top of that, when they deal extra physical damage as lightning, you'll basically get zapped right away. So those are things to look out for. That's probably the biggest one, is honestly the resistances. And then there will be things, depending on your class, that will be very tough to do. When they have increased crit strike chance and multipliers, you can also die very fast as well. So just be on the lookout for those and check the certain affixes on there. And there's different ways, again, using different currency. Well, let's actually do a trade right now. Sorry, there's different ways using different currencies to be able to change the affixes on your map. So this was, as you can see, so this is how you trade. So that guy messaged me, he sent a message from the website saying, I want to buy your item. And then since I have the sell tabs, I'm able to sell it. So I invite him, he comes to my hideout, I invite him to trade. I put this right here. I wanted 28 for it. That's what it said. So you just have to hover over them. I traded to him. And just like that, he's got his item. I have 28 more of these Chaos Orbs. And everyone's happy. So that's how simple trading is. I'm actually glad that happened. So that's how simple trading is. I know it's kind of backtracking a little bit, but it's a really easy way to get the gear you want and to get the gear you need without having to farm over and over again just looking for an item when you have all this currency that you could be using. Okay, so once you use a map, you put it in this little map device thing, which you'll get at the end of the game. And there's different things you can add. Again, these are some of the in-game events and some of the missions and things. Or this guy Karak has missions. We'll get to them in a second. What's that one? But you'll basically go in there and you can choose if you want an Immortal Syndicate in there. You can choose if you want, this is for Delve. This is another type of in-game one. These are the beasts I was talking about before. So you can choose if you want those to come up. But the most important one you want to know about is this Karak guy. So he's right here. Meet him at the end of the campaign. I don't think that's a spoiler, but you want to click on up here. You don't really want to click on his purchase items. You can for the lower level ones, but for the higher level ones, they get too expensive and they're not worth it. You do want to look at what missions he has. So I actually have no regular and rare ones, but you can use this to, let's see, have I completed all these? Unfortunately, I've completed all these, but you can use this to be able to complete maps in your atlas that you otherwise wouldn't, and there's certain ways with certain things you'll find to be able to corrupt them for these higher ones or roll them for ones you don't have and things like that. And unfortunately, I've completed all these, but this guy's going to be very important in helping you fill out your tree. And as you fill out that tree, you're going to have some other things here. This is someone that basically you have to do a certain amount of map bosses in order to go fight them. This is another boss where you're going to have to go do a certain activity in order to go fight them in certain higher tier maps. But that's, again, later on, and I don't want to get too far into that. So that's the basis of kind of mapping how it works, what you're going to want to make sure the rarities are. These are even special ones that I don't even fully understand. These are unique ones as well too, which you end up dropping, and you're going to need to do these for your atlas tree. But yeah, that's the basis on mapping, and as you go up, it'll basically get harder. It's pretty simple in that way, and there is ways to augment them. If you see people adding juice to their map is what they call it. They're adding things like, it might be like these scarabs or certain orbs and things will be able to make the map most likely harder, but also drop better rewards. So that's pretty far into the endgame, though. I haven't even really gotten to that myself, and like I said, I'm almost level 91. Okay, so the next, just a couple more things. I know this video is now over a half hour, but I wanted to be pretty specific, but try to be concise, so I'm doing my best. Next thing I did want to talk about is something that's pretty important, something that's a little bit difficult to understand, and I keep hitting the wrong button. So your resistance is capped out at 75%. So you want, there's 4 types of resistances. There's fire, cold, lightning, and chaos. Chaos is basically a form of damage over time. It's actually the damage I do. It kind of looks like poison, but it's actually technically chaos damage. So you want these 3 at least at 75%, usually above though, because there's certain curses and ailments you can get placed on you that'll lower it. So you usually want them above the max, but you want them for sure at least at 75%. It's basically a must-have once you get past the campaign. So, and this is what I've learned. So chaos, if I do run into it, it basically instantly kills me, but it's so rare at this stage of the things that I'm doing that I don't really have to worry about it. Once I get deeper into the game, it will be something I do have to fix. Right now it's at negative 43, as you can see. So that's very not good. But those are the 4 types of resistances you can have. You might be saying, well, what about like poison or something like that? So those are actually considered what they call ailments. So the ailments are ignite, basically catching on fire, chill, freeze, shock, and and poison as well too. And I'm sorry, bleeding as well is the other one. So there's those ailments as well too. And this is something that I didn't know for a long time. And it ended up getting you killed in maps, and you'll be like, what the heck? But basically what you want to do is you want to have, so this is actually, so drop back down, it's just because of one of my flags. You want to have these all at above 100, and then you also want a way to get rid of, as you can see right here, this flask gets rid of or grants immunity to bleeding and corrupted blood. And then I believe it's this one, yes, immunity to poison. You will want all of those on, or else you will die once you get into the higher tier maps pretty easily and pretty often from these things. That's something that actually took me a while to figure out. Someone told me about it, and then it's made a world of difference. And there's different ways to do this. You'll probably see in your builds ways to get this all over 100%. Okay, so second to last thing to talk about is crafting. So there's 2 crafting benches. Let's actually go to the more complicated one first, and I'll say for a second. So this one, it actually has to do with the harvest event inside maps, and you'll get this kind of currency thing, and you'll be able to do very specific types of crafting. And this will make a lot more sense once you understand basic crafting, so I'm going to leave this alone for now. But we come over to the crafting bench here. So as you go through, you'll find different recipes, you'll unlock different recipes, and this will allow you to add different things and different affixes to your gear, your flask, things like that. So on a piece of gear, so one, you can't do it on a unique piece, I guess, first and foremost, but on a piece of gear, let's take something that I do have something crafted to do. So for example, my gloves. So you can see I have max life, I have a % increase to armor and evasion, I have cold resistance, fire, and I have lightning resistance. And then at the bottom there, you can see in the light blue, I have an increase to my maximum mana. And that is actually crafted on there. So when you could take your piece of gear, we could take these for now and put them in here. So you can have 3 suffixes and 3 prefixes on a item. So a suffix and prefix it won't tell you here. What's actually an easier way to show that would be honestly to go to the PoE trade here, and you can see corrupted ones you actually can't, but you can see. So let's say like this right here, it has, this one's corrupted, so it has an extra, but let's find just a normal one. These are all going to be corrupted, aren't they? Okay, whatever. We'll just look at this. So the S's are the suffixes, the P's are the prefixes, and you're able to have 3 of each of these on an item, on a normal item. And if you have an open slot, you are able to go to that bench for your piece of gear and craft something else on there. So for example, if I go back to here, and I just pull up my stuff real quick, as you can see, we have max life, that's 1, armor 2, fire 3, cold 4, lightning 5. So there's 1 open slot. For this, it's actually going to be a prefix slot. That's something you'll be able to kind of see as you go on. So like if I put in here, you can see you'll actually be able to change what I crafted on there. And that might be something you want to do moving forward. But it is nice to be able to kind of customize what you want to have on your gear, and that's something you can look for while you're buying your gear as well too. And it's pretty important. And the other really important thing beyond that, beyond crafting kind of affixes that you need, like for example, this one's actually very important to me. I actually use the other bench for this lightning stuff, which I need because of my build. But the all attributes on here, I had to craft to hit some of the requirements needed. As you can see, when I take it off, this turns red, which means I can't use it because I don't meet, I think it's for both of them. For one, it's strength, and this one is just strength. I don't meet it unless I craft that on there, which I did, and now I'm able to hit it and use all my gems at their current level and everything like that. The other thing that's very important is the sockets. So, again, let's just take these and let's type in sockets here. So it would have to be empty. But what you're able to do is, let's say you buy a piece of gear, it only has 2 sockets on it. You can change that to, for your helmet, your boots, and your gloves, you can change that to up to 4 sockets. And then for your weapons and your chest, you're able to change that to 6. I'm sorry, your main weapon and your chest, I should say, I guess. But you're able to change the sockets, and you're also able to change the colors of the sockets in order to fit the gems needed. So this should have probably been mentioned earlier in the video, and I apologize. I actually had it written down, and now I'm realizing it. But the way this game works is your skill tree is all passive. So it'll do things like more damage with bows, more damage over time, give you more life, give you more armor, things like that. Your skills actually come from these gems that get socketed into your gear. And basically what they do is the links will allow you to support gems with other gems. So you have what you would consider like a skill gem, like I'm using Toxic Rain as my main skill, and I'm supporting that with things like, what's an easy example? Like something like Vicious Projectiles, which makes them do more damage, or Void Manipulation, which makes them do more chaos damage, which is my main source of damage. Or I have it in 2 places because one of them I use Totems, which is like a little, basically turret you kind of put on the floor. But again, kind of same thing here, more damage over time, which is what I do. So you can see how you basically will put your main skills in, and then you'll buff them. And then you'll also have things like auras and things like that you're most likely socket into kind of your gloves and your boots and your helmet, and kind of your other little like curses or movement skills or things like that. Things that don't really need to be supported, although they can be, as this gem right here is supporting all 3 of these. But those will work kind of in tandem with your main skills, which is what you'll have all buffed up with these links here. And so what you're able to do is you're able to actually craft whatever kind of links you want on your piece of gear. So you might have to hit it a couple times, and you might have to gamble. If you want 2 blue sockets, a red and a green, you can do at least 2 blue sockets. It's going to cost you 25 of these orbs. It'll give you at least 2, and then you can kind of keep rolling for a red and a green attached to that. But that's kind of the basis of crafting. There's a ton more stuff you can do with it. That's way over my head. Like I said, this is a beginner's guide for from a beginner, trying to teach you the way kind of I learned and hoping it works. So there's so much you can just craft full sets of gear and everything like that through this thing. It's very in-depth, but that's kind of the 2 basics of it, basically kind of augmenting your gear as well as being able to change and link the sockets. Okay, so final thing is actually going to be a application called Path of Building. And this is something I wouldn't worry about until you're later down the line. Probably level, it's something I just got into, probably level like 80 plus or so. And this is also going to look very confusing. But this is a great tool because you can actually import your character, and it'll give you all the information on how much damage you're doing, what's your kind of effective hit pool. One thing that's very important for me is this mana regen. It'll also tell you how much mana you're using per second. So for example, what I'm actually working towards with that last node there is you can see I regen 60 mana per second, and then on hit, basically I leech / get back about on average about 64 mana, but I spend, if I were to just spam it, about 170. So what I'm actually going for right now is this little node right here, and this will tell you exactly what it does. Actually, I have this. Sorry, it's a little outdated. You can see that goes up. But the one I'm actually going for right now, as you can see, this gives me a huge increase to that mana on hit / leech, and that'll actually put me above the max there. So I basically have kind of unlimited mana as long as I'm hitting things. But it'll show you, you can allocate your skill points and see exactly what kind of effect they have. You can mess around with the DPS in different ways, but so let's say my DPS right now is 1.7 million. And let's say, where is something that just flat out increases damage if I can find it? Sorry. Let me see if I can find something. Oh, wait, I know where I can find it. So if I go up here, for example, you can see I'm at 1.7 million. This is just going to be life, so obviously not affect that. But this one right here, and actually, you can look at it here. It'll give me about 70,000 more DPS. You can see at the bottom. I'll click in a second. But this node gives you 20% more damage, 20% increased crit strike chance, and plus 10 to dex and int. But if I click this, you can see my 1.7 on the left. That's right here. You can see that. It'll jump up to 1.8 million. So it's a very effective tool. Once you get more in depth into it, once you understand it, and being able to figure out exactly where you want to go with your skill points, what kind of gear you need, etc. And it's definitely made a huge difference for me, as I've moved forward and been able to, kind of understand the game better. So this is a program you'll end up downloading, and like I said, you'll be able to import your character. This isn't something else I would look into once you get farther into the game. But that's it for that. And I believe that's basically it for what I wanted to discuss in the video. Went on for about 46 minutes, it's looking like. So rather long video, but I did want to kind of, like I said, give the beginner's guide from a true beginner's perspective, which I thought would be very useful since I've been enjoying this game a lot. And I hope it was useful to you. So definitely stop by any live streams while I'm streaming this game. Ask any questions. A lot of really helpful people that really want to teach people about the game that stop by the chat, and I appreciate them all so much. And then definitely, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments as well too, and I'll try to answer them. Or like I said, I'm sure there will be people that would love to answer any questions you have as you start out the game, or let's say you're just starting. So that's going to be it for me, The Butcher. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will be coming back with more both Path of Exile and Diablo content as well too as we approach the new season. See ya.